and your children are turned into mindless vassals who now they look up to some twit instead of looking up to Thomas Jefferson or looking up to Nikola Tesla or looking up to Magellan. I mean, kids, Magellan's a lot cooler than Justin Bieber. He circumnavigated with one ship the entire planet. He was killed by wild natives before they got back to Portugal. And when they got back, there was only like 11 people alive of the 200 and something crew, and the entire ship was rotting down to the waterline. That's destiny. That's will. That's striving. That's being a trailblazer, an explorer, going into space, mathematics, quantum mechanics, the secrets of the universe. It's all there. Life is fiery with its beauty. It's incredible detail. Tuning into it. They want to shatter your mind talking about Justin Bieber.
Hello out there. It's good to see you. We're on the air. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, everybody. It is the 88 Lessons Day. This one's titled Removing the Biggest Risk in Bitcoin. And I wonder what that is. I guess we'll have to find out here in a second. But you might be wondering, why are we listening to Alex Jones talking about Justin Bieber and Magellan? And it's funny because I have a couple different stalkers on my channel. I'll call them stalkers because that's what they are. They're complete weirdos. Because they just kind of have this weird obsession with me. I don't know if this is like a normal thing or if I think it's normal. But anyways, somebody left a message last week talking about basically calling me a conspiracy theorist because I started the 88 lessons last week with Alex Jones intro there. And he said that he was calling me a conspiracy theorist, and then Alex Jones talking about Sandy Hook and all this other crap. And, you know, you might wonder how that relates to Bitcoin, that video and that kind of little intro. It's because Bitcoin really unlocks a lot of different things in life. It's much more than just a money. And I think that, you know, depending on how far you are down the rabbit hole in Bitcoin, you understand that. But there's something much bigger happening here than money. Of course, Bitcoin is the best store of value that exists and has ever existed before. It's also the best money, the best medium of exchange. Because of its scarcity and verifiability, it's also going to be the future unit of account of Earth, which means how we're going to measure things. So yes, it's all these different things, but Bitcoin has a much bigger impact than just money and finance and investing. There's something much bigger happening here, in my opinion, and from my experience. And Bitcoin really makes you question a lot of things, because when you find out that everything you've ever learned since you were very young was a lie, then you start looking around at different things. You start asking questions, and you start going down all these different rabbit holes, and you see that, you know, there's more to it than we've been told, including money, and I don't want to get too far down anything here because, you know, the platform that we're watching this on, but, you know, I think we're kind of at the point now, especially over these last couple weeks and months. If anybody calls you a conspiracy theorist anymore at this point of the game, I'd say it's best to just cut ties. Honestly, like, you don't have to be mean to them. You don't have to be rude to them. You don't have to be anything. And actually, you know, speaking of that, I think a very good analogy for that yesterday was Lawrence Lepard. I want to give a big shout out to him. I don't know if he watches the show or ever will watch this, but that's just kind of where we're at right now. It's like Satoshi had a very famous quote early on in Bitcoin. I don't know if it was an email or in the message board or whatever it was, but he basically said, if you don't understand Bitcoin, I don't have the time to explain it to you. If you're going to argue with me about what's going on here, I don't have the time to explain it to you. And Larry basically gave this fiat dipshit yesterday a couple middle fingers and just left, because he's like, you know, my time is scarce here. I'm not going to spend my finite energy and time with dipshits like you. And so there's kind of two worlds right now from my vantage point anyways. There's people who have an open mind and are willing to ask questions, and they usually that road usually leads to Bitcoin. It usually starts with like precious metals, gold, silver. You know, once you kind of have that awakening that, hey, we've been lied to about almost everything here, the money's fake, I need to hedge myself a little bit, that usually leads to Bitcoin. But then there's everybody else who's just still kind of stuck in that system. And they're using terms like conspiracy theorists still. You know, if it wasn't for conspiracy theories, I wouldn't be sitting here today. And I like another quote here that basically says the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth is about 6 months. In this case, it was about 6 years for me. And in the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of different, narratives around Bitcoin. It seems like every couple of years, there's a different narrative in Bitcoin. The last one was quantum. This one was Jeffrey Epstein being tied to Bitcoin. And it was funny because learning about that stuff back in 2020 or 2019, whatever it was, I remember watching all these news stations and saying how crazy Pizzagate was and how crazy all these people were who believed that these politicians and these Hollywood actors and musicians could ever do such a thing. And it's funny because all of those things now, 6 years later, have all been proven right. And Bitcoiners right now, I would say, are kind of in the same category as conspiracy theorists, in the sense that when you're having a conversation with somebody who's still very closed-minded, still benefiting from that fiat system, still stuck in the Keynesian economics system, they think you're crazy. They think that you're a conspiracy theorist. But it's just because they haven't taken any time to actually look and learn and ask questions. So they'll get here. People like that guy, I called him Mr. Clean on the video yesterday, Mr. Clean, that bald-headed guy that was arguing with Lawrence Lepard. People like that will get Bitcoin. They'll eventually own Bitcoin, but they'll just have way less of it. And their family, his grandkids in 20 or 30 years from now are going to say, they're going to look back on that interview and say, oh my God, Grandpa was a absolute clown. What a clown. And I think if there's nothing else that you should take with you in these next couple of years going forward, because it's pretty chaotic and crazy time to be alive right now, but just keep an open mind. And that's kind of where I start everything now, is whatever they say, I usually just assume that's a lie right off the hop, because, if you did that for the last 10 years, I think you'd be sitting pretty well right now. If you just assume that everything that the government and the media and that whole system tells you, if you assume that's a lie and start there, you're going to be in a pretty good spot. So that's where I want to start the show today. Kind of a long-winded one, but anyways, we're here. We will start with Nostr as well. My favorite crowd on here. We are on YouTube, we're on Rumble, and we're on Nostr today. And I see we got Joshua is over there. We got Jake the Hick. We got Scotty Boy 99 sats. He said someone at the door. Jor, someone at the door. Just your standard crazy comment there from Scotty Boy. I don't know what that means. Josh says, morning Arnie and Luxter. No whining like the left-leaning libtards today, okay? Yeah, I got to be careful because, like I said, I do this show every morning. I do it on a couple other platforms, so I got to pay attention to my words. But I've kind of already hit all the boxes in this one today. We had Alex Jones, we had Pizzagate, we had conspiracy theories. I'm sure there's going to be 0 people that ever see this video, so I can pretty much say what I want now. Scotty Boy says, go Larry, 99 sats. Thank you, Scotty Boy. And Josh also sent 8,888 units of freedom with that one. So thank you, Josh. I missed that one. Missed the zap. Was paying attention to your chat. David T, 420. Thank you, David T. Good morning, my friend. Oh, we got a good crew over on Nostr. I haven't even told anybody we're live there yet. We should do that right now. We're going to have a little bit of a warm-up here, you might say, before we get to the lesson. This is going to be a good lesson today. I said it was the most important lesson last episode, or is it 15, I think. 15 was. But this one will be right up there. Removing the biggest risk in Bitcoin. And who do you think that is? What do you think that is? What do you think the biggest risk in Bitcoin is right now? We are live. And I'm also going to take a little bit of a poll here from the chat in a couple minutes. But Scotty says, your song, Jor. Someone at the door, Jor. Someone at the door. Still don't know what that means, Scotty. Sats and Sunsets, 1,700. Wow, that's a big one for show 17. Thank you, Sats and Sunsets, my man. Okay, what's going on in the chat here today? We got Bolshoi. Bolshoya. Yo. Praetorian also had a nice early morning zap today to start the Tuesday today. We also have Arnie's wallet right here. So if you've been getting anything from this channel, if you learned anything from me and you feel the need to send some back, you can send it to our rescue dog fund here. QR code. Praetorian sent an early morning zap today. It was a different one, slightly different than usual. And that zap was 5500 units of freedom. And Praetorian said, good morning, Jor and Visionaries. Been a very busy week. Have a spectacular, motivational, mastermind-centered day. Kind regards, Praetorian. Thank you, Praetorian. We got Mark. We got Jake. We got Ginger. We got Ginger on both. We got Sats and Sunsets here and there. Sedge. Good morning from Canada. Good morning from Canada to you, my friend. Scotty boy, is this the right place to learn from fellow Bitcoiners? Yes. Jor, you are included. Thanks, Scotty. Thank you, my man. There's Josh right there. Morning Rumblers, comment and like, then head over to Noster, eh? That's right. Josh gets it. Killer's here. Hey, Killer. Good to see you, buddy. Haven't seen you for a while. Buck52. Good to see you, Buck52. Stripes is here. Eatable Zebra. Wow, what a crew we got going here today. Good point here, Sats and Sunsets. Let's do this together. Hit the like button if you're watching on Rumble. And remember to breathe. Take a couple. Slow her down. That was a good message. I needed that right now. A little bit wound up. Thinking about Larry. Thinking about my man, Larry. Shinku, Nakamoto, Jor, Rajat, Forrest are goated. Morning, Shinku. Scotty Boy says, hey, happy Lunar New Year. Rest of the, year of the Fire Horse. Really? I thought it was year of Fire Horse. Huh. Okay. Conspiracy theorists get proven right every single day. MDR8. That's a hard one to say. Hello, all from the UK. Morning, MDR8. Call me a conspiracy theorist. I don't give a crap. Sats and Sunset says there's no better truth machine than Bitcoin. That is absolutely accurate. That is absolutely accurate. And, I don't know if we'll get to that kind of stuff in this 88 lessons course. The stuff that's deeper than money. But we'll see. Hey, look who it is. BitBilly. BitBilly says, hey, good morning, Jordan, everyone. Good to see you, BitBilly. Haven't seen you much. Hopefully everything's good with you, man. Shinku says, then you find out more than you want to know. That's true. That is also true. Yeah, check out Larry Lepard. We could probably watch it right away if you guys and girls want to. Hey, Space Dog's over in Noster. Space Dog, also known as Uno, I believe, formerly known as Uno. If you guys and girls want to watch that Larry Lepard interview, we can watch it quick here. Lord is my shepherd, shall not want. Good morning, Bitcoin fam. Good morning. All turned out to be true. All of them. Every single one of them. Except Flat Earth. Flat Earth. I don't know about that one yet. Mining at 12 terahash now. Woohoo. I wish UK electricity wasn't a complete joke. Yeah, I think the last place you want to be mining is the UK. Whoa, what is this? Okay, we got a fat zap here. 24681. Wow, who the hell was that? I have an idea. I'm going to go ahead and guess that's a random number. 24681. 24681. I'm going to guess that was Cedar Sats, but I don't know for sure. Whoever the hell sent that, thank you. My God. That's that helps the show today. Benjamin's over in Nostra. Good morning, Benjamin. Good to see you, buddy. The term conspiracy is a psyop itself. True. Yeah, you know who invented that conspiracy theorist term? They invented that to make people like us sound crazy. And it took me way too many years to become a conspiracy theorist. I feel like that. I don't like using the term normies, but normies resist Bitcoin. Yes, true. True. I feel like a retarded buying something that keeps falling. Your stalkers could also be bots. Nah, I don't think they are. I don't think that they are. But, oh, it was Jen. Wow. Was that Jen? I was going to guess it was Cedar Sats because we got another one from Cedar Sats this morning. 3333. That was Jen. Should have known. Jen's been the MOB here like twice in the last week. So that's double the 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I get it. I got it. Thank you, Jen. Is it a random number though? Thank you, Jen. Paulie's here. Bitcoin soldiers at arms. The globalists are coming for us. Yeah, they're trying. Feels that way, doesn't it? It feels like the globalists are also toast, though. They are toast. It seems that way. Solar's here. Heyo, currently inventorying a whole Target store. Wow. What? Currently inventorying a whole Target store. What the hell does that mean? Okay, let's watch it. I want to watch this. This will get me in the right mood for today, I think. Let's watch the Larry interview quickly. Get me fired up and remind myself why I'm here, why we're doing this. Because of we got to support guys like Larry, man. He's a good shit. The tweet here says Larry Lepard is my Bitcoin spirit animal. I would second that. I love this dude, man. Always have. But after watching this, I think Larry has become my favorite Bitcoiner. Sorry, I missed a couple here. Joe from California is here today. Wow, the whole crew is here. What is double 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minus the last 0 because my wallet is not that fat. pH fat. Thank you, Jen. Jen is once again in the running for MOB, and that was even sent to the Rescue Dog Fund. So those sats are going to go a long way one day. Thank you, Jen. Okay, here we go. This is an interview, and I guess just to give a little bit of context, I don't know what the context is to this. I don't. When I look at this little screenshot here, hey, Lady Boomer 2, good evening from Thailand. Good evening, good morning, Lady Boomer. Nice to see you. So my context to this, I don't know. You're going to watch this video, and you're going to watch the facial expressions of these guys. And I don't know, this guy, Larry's making a point about something. It sounded like they were talking about the Bitcoin ETFs and probably the recent price of Bitcoin. Because after reading the comments on Mr. Clean here, I've been seeing that he's been calling for Bitcoin to go down to $10,000 for about 5 years now. So it seems like he's trying to brute force his way down to Bitcoin being 10K. And he's mad about it. He's big time mad about it. And so when Larry's trying to explain himself, he keeps cutting him off. He won't let Larry finish. And at some point, Larry just had enough. He drops a couple F-bombs. So if you're watching this with kids right now, you might want to just put some earphones in or turn it down. But, and then he just takes off. But you can just tell, look at how smug this bastard looks here. Look at this guy. This is somebody who's benefited from the fiat system, basically from extracting. That's what the fiat system is. The fiat system benefits people who add zero value to the world, but still allows them to extract as much as they can from people. It's completely against nature. It's completely backwards. And dipshits like this guy don't want it to end because they don't do anything. They're useless. They don't add any sort of value to the world. They just extract. And every time there's a new dollar created, they're the beneficiaries of it in one way or the other. You can just tell, look at that guy's face right now. You know where this is going to go. These two guys, I don't know who they are. Dan with Unfiltered. Don't really care. But you want to be watching these two guys right here. So let's watch this video.
Yeah, and it's done this 7 times before where it had a decline.
ETFs.
What's that? ETFs. Yeah, ETF growth may be slower right now.
ETFs. Massive piling and then get me out.
Yeah, they were, but it was the
No,
fastest growing.
They just it's marked the peak. This is things we predicted 5 years ago.
Finish, Mike,
ETFs going mainstream, best practice in history.
Mike,
Retail Joe Schmo jumped on board. Train's over.
Mike,
There
I'm fucking done with you, man. I really am. You won't even let me finish my comment. Fuck you. I mean, fuck you, man. Seriously.
Now I gotta moderate. We have another topic that I want to discuss that I think we can all agree on, and well, I'll be saying FUs too, which is the negative. Okay, here, Larry, you're out of here. All right, no problem. Appreciate you. All right.
Yeah, and it's done this 7 times before.
Okay, well, watch it one more time because it's only a minute long and there's a lot to take in here. But watch this dipshit up here. Just watch him after he keeps talking over Larry, and then Larry finally had enough and he told him to F off. And you can just see his eyebrows are moving. He's like just the most smug piece of shit you could ever imagine. And I just feel like this is a perfect representation of the fiat system and all those who benefit from fiat. They're just so smug, so arrogant, and they don't even realize what they're doing here. But this is how they speak to people like us. They think that they have the ability to just speak over other people, and they don't want to let us talk, because when we talk, we speak truth, and that's what scares them the most. And so when they just keep talking over you like that, this is classic, and not just fiat, but this is kind of the same in, I hate using left and right, but there's a lot of people on the left that don't really think for themselves. And whenever you try to question them or ask questions, they just keep saying the same thing and continue talking over you. You see this all the time on like the mainstream news where they have a guest on and the guest starts speaking truth. And they don't want to let it get too far. They don't want the truth to get out there too much. So they just keep either shutting them down or talking over them, or they cut to commercial break. And that's this representation here. I just feel like that's the world that we live in now. Anybody who's trying to speak truth about anything, Mr. Clean comes along here and just talks over them. And then just acts so smug and arrogant when they get mad, when they get frustrated with it. So let's watch it again one more time. Watch this dude's face. Mr. Clean.
Where it had a decline.
ETFs.
What's that? ETFs. Yeah, ETF growth may be slower right now.
ETFs. Massive piling and then get me out.
Yeah, they were, but it was the fastest growing.
They just it's marked the peak. This is things we predicted 5 years ago. ETFs going mainstream, best practice in history.
Mike,
Retail Joe Schmo jumped on board. Train's over.
Mike, I'm fucking done with you, man. I really am. You won't even let me finish my comment. Fuck you. I mean, fuck you, man. Seriously.
Now I gotta moderate. We have another topic that I want to discuss that I think we can all agree on, and another.
Then he waves his little hand like that, as if to say, "Yeah, see you later, crazy Bitcoiner. Us adults here are going to continue talking here." He gives a little wave to Larry. Oh my God! I don't know why we watch this. I don't know how I got sucked into
topic that I want to discuss.
Boiling.
That I think we can all agree on, and well, I'll be saying FUs too, which is the negative. Okay, here, Larry, you're out of here. All right, no problem. Appreciate you.
Okay, Sats and Sunsets, thank you for the reminder there. We just got to breathe. Just got to breathe. Take a second here. VHF says they're both clowns. Do you think Larry Lepard's a clown, or are you talking about somebody else? You're calling Larry Lepard a clown? Might be worth a ban here, buddy. Ida Hoddle says, which Lepard interview are you referencing? We just watched it. Benjamin says his recent rip on Scott Meltzer's SP show Wolf of Wall Street clip is floating around. Show Wolf of all streets. I don't know what that means, Benjamin. And we got Mark. Happy Tuesday. Set up Zap stream over the weekend. Test Zap. There it is. Thank you, Mark. 1650. 65 sats. VHF says it's fine, Jory. You can ban me. Yeah, stop getting banned, bro. I'm not going to ban you. I just don't know why you'd call Larry Lepard a clown. Like, what sense does that make? What has Larry ever said that you would trigger you to call him a clown? I'm interested to know. I'm obviously not going to ban you. I'm not a banner. I don't think I've ever banned anybody in the chat before. I've done I've done over 500 live streams now. And I don't think I've ever banned anyone. And I think that, all this stuff has made me a better Bitcoiner. If you, it's funny looking back to some of my old videos, there's like 3 people in the chat and I was just so uncomfortable there. But, it's just, I'm happy to ask questions and have discussion as long as you have like a decent, as long as you have a decent reason for it, then I'm happy to listen to it. Let's go, Larry. I just watched their live. It's always nice to hear folks of all ages speaking on Bitcoin. Yeah, Bloomberg intelligence. Exactly. Oxymoron. So true. So true. Yeah, no doubt. I wanted to reach through the screen too there, Jen. Kev says, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Kev. 21 Sat Street. Good to see you, buddy. Mr. Clean is long T-bills and bonds. That's right. Bitcoin is truth. That's why it scares the system. 100%. He was rude and interrupted him, but you can't lose your cool, though. This won't be the last we will face this kind of decision. I really wouldn't call that losing your cool, though. I really wouldn't. And maybe I'm biased because I'm on Larry's side here with things. But, he handled it a lot better than I would have. That's for sure. And it just kind of goes back to the quote that we started things with here, which is from Satoshi. And yeah, I mean, you could probably use a little less F-bombs there. But Satoshi Nakamoto quote, what was the quote about? I don't have time. I feel like that all the time. It's just like, why I'm taking my time. And that's the thing about like somebody like Larry. Like he doesn't need to be there. What do you think Larry's getting from being on a podcast? And it's like, if you're not going to listen to me, why would I waste my time here? And this is a quote from Satoshi. It says, if you don't believe me or don't get it, I don't have time to try and convince you. Sorry. I like that he said sorry there too. Satoshi was probably a Canadian. If you don't believe me or don't get it, I don't have time to try to convince you. Sorry. And it's just like, you just get tired of it. You just get tired of taking shit. And I don't know. I kind of feel like that a lot of days here too. Just my opinion. Okay, well, that's not a very good explanation there, VHF. And you don't have to explain yourself. Why say that unless you have like a reason for it? Met Larry in Vegas signing his book for us. Solid guy, good man. Sats and Sunsets with another 88 Sats radio membership. And keep in mind here that any memberships on the channel here, on the 88 Sats radio channel, you get access to a Bitcoin video every day. Every day of the year, you get a new Bitcoin video. Talking about a plethora of different things. You get through the Bitcoin school course, you watch all those videos. If you're somebody who likes watching Bitcoin stuff and wants to learn as much as you can, I don't think there's a better place on the internet than the Bitcoin school. And all the members on YouTube actually get a free, not free, I guess, because you're paying to be there, but you get a video every day posted to YouTube for you to watch. They're all private videos from the Bitcoin school. So thank you, Sats and Sunsets, and congrats, Edward Cullen. Larry is great. I agree. The guy spelled ETF like Larry was an idiot. F-bombs deserved. I agree. Larry just gets frustrated with the ignorance. I agree. It gets wearing. I agree 100%. I agree 100%. Like Satoshi says, I don't have the care to explain why I think Larry is a clown. I just do. Okay. No problem there, VHF. Shinku. Our knowledge of Bitcoin gives us a conviction to hodl through 50% dips. Agree. I think the other guy wasn't being professional, but rather deliberately trying to get under his skin. Well, it was a little wave at the end there. That's what made me agree with you there. It was whatever. Doesn't matter much. We got bigger fish to fry today. We got bigger fish. Mateo zapped 124 big FUs for Mr. Clean. Thank you, Mateo. And Chuck zapped Live Free Zap 1111. Morning, everyone. Better late than never. Thank you, Chuck. And thank you, everybody over in the Nostr chat for being here today. All right. Let's get into things here. So, what are we doing today? Oh, you know what we didn't do? We kind of missed out on this. Let's do it quick. I've been doing this every Tuesday here because I think this is an important part. This is kind of like a pregame. We'll start the pregame show here. We'll start the pregame show. All right, so this is pretty big news, I would say, in Bitcoin. We are currently sitting at the block height of 937,100. So 937,100 blocks have been mined since the Genesis block back in 2009. 937,000 blocks. Each one of those blocks, what are they? They're a bunch of transactions. That's it. And you can audit every single one of these blocks yourself if you had some time. It'd probably take you 10 years. But you can click into this and you can look at all the transactions that happened inside this block, including the Coinbase transaction. Nothing to do with the, I better watch what I say here. Nothing to do with the company Coinbase, but these are the newly generated coins. This is how new Bitcoin are created right here. This Coinbase transaction. Every block, there's a Coinbase transaction, and that's how the new Bitcoin are mined. So you can see them right there. That's a new Bitcoin. Every 10 minutes. And you can see all the transactions here. You can see how much they paid. This guy paid way too much, 105 sats per rebyte, or girl, but that's it. And you can go through where it came from, where it was sent to, how much it was, how much went to each, what they paid for a fee. You can see all this. Every single transaction that's happened since January 3rd, 2009, you can audit yourself. Imagine when we talk about Bitcoin being truth, you could not find a more truthful and transparent ledger. That's what this is. This is a ledger of all the transactions that have ever happened since the Genesis block. So if we go over now a little bit here, we can see the difficulty adjustment is pretty high. Look at this. So the difficulty adjustment is something that happens every 2016 blocks. So Bitcoin doesn't go by time or days or months or anything like that. It has its own clock. It's right here, the Bitcoin block height. That's Bitcoin's clock. That's what everything's measured by. So every 2016 blocks, there's a difficulty adjustment. And it either gets harder or easier for the miners. And miners, basically, they put a whole bunch of computing power and make a bunch of guesses. That's what they're doing. The more computational power you have, the more guesses you make. And of course, the more computational power you have, the more energy that requires. So just think about this very simply. When somebody plugs in a Bitcoin miner, there's more guesses, right? There's more computational power. There's more energy going into the Bitcoin network. When somebody unplugs a miner, that means there's less energy. There's less guesses. And the whole point of this difficulty adjustment is to make sure that the blocks are coming in on average every 10 minutes. Because then we can look out 100 years from now and say, what's going to be the supply of Bitcoin in the year 2136? And because of that, because we know that the blocks are going to be coming in on average every 10 minutes, we can realistically look out and say, this is how much there's going to be. And so this difficulty adjustment is kind of what self-regulates Bitcoin. When there's too much, or not too much, but when there's more miners, the difficulty adjustment goes up because it has to be harder. There's more guesses, so the difficulty adjustment goes up. Again, the whole target here is to keep the blocks coming in every 10 minutes. When there's less people mining, when a bunch of people unplug their miners for various reasons, the difficulty adjustment comes down because there's less guesses, there's less energy going into Bitcoin. And therefore, in order to keep the blocks coming in every 10 minutes, we have to lower the difficulty adjustment. to make it easier for the miners to keep those blocks coming in every 10 minutes. So you can see here, the last difficulty adjustment was a downwards adjustment of 11.16%. Downwards. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Obviously, the price of Bitcoin, miners aren't making as much when the price is down. But the other thing too is that they had a big winter storm in the US. And so a lot of that energy that was going into mining Bitcoin actually got redirected to heat homes in the US. So there was a big downwards adjustment because of that. Actually, this was, I think it was in the top 10 Bitcoin history, the biggest downwards adjustments in the difficulty adjustment. But as you can see here, we turned a red around and more. We are currently 225 blocks ahead. That's the most I've ever seen since I've been in Bitcoin. 225 blocks ahead, which obviously has a lot to do with this, right? That's why we're kind of so far ahead here. So 225 blocks ahead. Again, going back to that every 10 minutes, that's the target for Bitcoin blocks. We want them coming in every 10 minutes. And right now, before the next difficulty adjustment, we are 225 blocks ahead. That is crazy. So that's a very positive sign for the Bitcoin network. Very positive sign, even especially considering that the price is where it is today. So that's the mempool. That's kind of an update on the network. Very positive signal there. And this is the time chain. So you can see here that we're almost at 20 million Bitcoin. So we talked about back there the mempool, the Coinbase transactions. Every new block, there's new Bitcoin created. And that's what this is, the supply here. And you can see that we're at 19.99 million Bitcoin of the total 21 million, which is 95.19% of the Bitcoin has been mined. So for the next 100 years, 110 years, there's less than 5% of the supply left to be mined. And we are very close to 20 million Bitcoin. And this is the subsidy right here. So this is what changes every epoch, the total subsidy. So the block reward, that Coinbase transaction, this gets cut in half every 210,000 blocks, every epoch. And this is a really great visualization here because you can see here the different measurements. So it says the total supply. So this is all that's left for the next 110 years. We've went all the way around, and this is all that remains for the next 110 years. And where do you think that's going to go to? It's probably, for the most part, already spoken for. From governments, from big corporations, from the BlackRocks. Unless, people who are mining at home actually hit one of these blocks, these Bitcoin will never flow into the hands of the average person. They just won't. So you can see the percentage, you can see the blocks to the next halving. So in 112,000 blocks, that's when this subsidy here gets cut in half, 3.125 Bitcoin to 1.56 Bitcoin. And then you can see the blocks to the next difficulty adjustment measured right here, 340 blocks. So again, Bitcoin has its own clock. Bitcoin has its own calendar. And if you got 1 unit today, $1, you can get yourself 1,490 sats. So you can trade 1 unit of the worst money that humans have ever used before. You can trade one of those units for 1,490 units of the best money that the world has ever seen before. That's a pretty good trade. One of the worst units, one unit of the worst money in human history, you can trade one of those units for 1,490 units of the best, scarcest, most precious, energy-backed currency, the best currency that humankind has ever seen. Pretty good trade. We call that the deal of a lifetime. And so we mentioned there that every time there's a new block, the miner who mined that block gets the payout. So in this case, they got the subsidy. This is the fixed amount, 3.125 Bitcoin, plus they get the transaction fees. So in this case, the transaction fees, every time you send Bitcoin on the mainnet on layer 1, you have to pay a transaction fee. And if your transaction gets put into a block, whoever mined that block, they get your transaction fee, kind of as an incentive. So in this case, they got the subsidy plus the transaction fees for a total of 3.13 Bitcoin. There it is. Scotty says, basically even today for the DSA. Okay, thanks, Scotty. In case I fall asleep. Okay, checking on Noster here. We got a good crew over in Noster today. God bless. We got Maria 2000. Absolute legend over on Noster. Maria 2000. Zapped 5,000 units of freedom. FUs. Thank you, Maria. Says, good morning, Jordan crew. Busy day today. I feel like every day is busy for Maria. And until you... Maria, I know Maria has a lot more responsibility than I do in terms of what she looks after. But you don't know how much work it is. If you're living in the city and you're living in, you got a small yard to maintain, a small driveway to maintain, the roads cleared every day, the garbage picked up every day, fast food within 30 seconds of you. You don't really realize how much of a difference it is living outside the country and how much you have to maintain and how much work it is to do that. So I moved out of the country 2022. I left my job in 2021. So 2022, I'm coming out to my 4-year anniversary out here. And I'm hoping that all these trees one day will turn into sats for my tree harvesting business. So there it is. We got a couple acres of land out here. And there's a lot of responsibility. Big yard, big driveway. No plows come once in a while, but it's much different. So I know what you're saying when you're saying you're busy today, Maria. Plus she's got other stuff. She got animals and rentals. But thank you, Maria. I appreciate that. Small batch Steve. Look at that. 88 sats. Thank you, small batch Steve. And also zapped another 500. Love that. Thank you, small batch Steve. And we got Sin Diesel, the man himself, 1845. Thank you, Sin. Good to see you, buddy. All right, let's get into the lesson today. Usually we used to start these lessons like 5 minutes into the show, and now we are 45 minutes into the show. So we'll just have less I guess we'll have less Q&A at the end of this. That's kind of what the aftermath will be. But before we get into anything today, I want to ask you this question here. Actually, I guess I got to show you the options first. We'll get to this. Okay, so we read the title 42 minutes ago. Title is Removing the Biggest Risk in Bitcoin. Shout outs today. We got Gigi, the man who wrote the book called 21 Lessons. Inspired this series here called 88 Lessons. And we're on number 17 today. So shout out to Gigi, one of the best Bitcoiners in the biz. Shout out to Michael Saylor as well. He had a quote here at the bottom. You can see it there. People spend 100,000 hours of their life earning money, going to work, running a business. They spend 100,000 hours earning money. They should spend at least 100 hours learning how to keep that money, or 88 lessons. And that's what the series is about. And the reason I wanted to make this series because, you have a couple different kinds of people coming into Bitcoin. I find anyways. You got the people who just want the price exposure to it, and that's fine. They don't care about the freedom. They don't care about the sovereignty. They don't care about how powerful it is that you can hold the keys to your Bitcoin without anybody being able to take those from you, without anybody even knowing that you have those keys. They don't care about that. But there's a lot of people out there that do. And I don't even know how many hours I'm into Bitcoin right now at this point, but I know that it's not going to stop. And so if you're anything like me, you want to learn as much as you possibly can. You want to make sure that whatever investment allocation you made into Bitcoin, it's protected. Because you can watch all the bullish news you want. You can, watch as many price predictions and charts and CAGRs you want to. But if you don't have the keys to your Bitcoin, if you don't know how to store those properly, then it doesn't matter how much Bitcoin you have today. So I'm hoping that by the end of this course, by the end of these 88 lessons, that you can share this series with somebody who really wants to learn, and they'll have a very good understanding of what this asset is and how to protect it. So that's the point of 88 lessons. It's all free. It's all free on YouTube. I wanted to make sure it's free for everybody. So that's what we're doing here. And the last shout out here is to you watching this right now. Because again, there's a lot of people out there, even though they have Bitcoin, they don't care about the other stuff. They'd rather just let somebody else hold the keys to their Bitcoin. They just want the paper derivative of that Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin goes from 60 to 600K, they can see a number on a screen go up. That's what they're here for. But there's a lot of people out there, including you watching this today, who actually give a shit, who want the freedom, who understand what Bitcoin does for our freedom. You want the sovereignty in the sense that you can go anywhere on this earth with 12 words in your head. And when you land or when you get to where you're going, you can convert those sats into what you need. It's very powerful. It's very, very powerful. And I actually shared a video talking about this yesterday on the channel. So if you haven't watched that yet, make sure you check that out. I think it was called They Can't Steal What They Don't Know You Have or something like that. But that's the superpower of Bitcoin. And I think that everybody here, most people here understand that and want to learn how to do it. So shout out to you because we are first generation Bitcoiners here. We are the first ones to find this, discover this new land called Bitcoin. And it's great. It's great, but it also comes with a lot of responsibility. And so you're here today on a Tuesday in February 2026. You're here watching. So shout out to you. A couple new members here that I wanted to report. We got our newest member who just got a gift from Sats and Sunsets there. But again, these members here, they have access to all the Bitcoin School videos. So every single, God, YouTube. Oh, I just get so depressed every time I look at YouTube here. Anyways, all the members on the channel here do get access, a video every day. Every single day you get a video talking about Bitcoin. Variety of subjects, different ways to think about it, different ideas. It's mostly just like, I want to give some technical knowledge. I want people to understand what they're holding. But more than anything else, these Bitcoin videos are meant to stimulate your mind. Because when you hear something, even if you don't really understand it, I feel like a lot of these videos actually trigger something inside of your mind that make you think about your own situation and your own setup. And you start asking questions that you never knew that you needed to ask before. So these videos, the Bitcoin School videos that I do every day, they're more like a mind stimulant for people to get the wheels turning here. Because really it's up to you. You have access to all the information you'll ever need on the internet. What these videos do is obviously I want to share some knowledge with you that I've learned so you don't have to make the same mistakes that I've made, but also just to get the wheels turning, to essentially stimulate your mind into preparing better for your threats. Because as Bitcoiners here, I know we haven't really seen a whole lot of this yet, but the threats for Bitcoiners are going to be much higher than anybody else because of that. Because like I mentioned there, great power, Bitcoin, comes great responsibility. And so you really got to think this stuff through. And so a couple new members here to report. We got Tyler, 5541 joined. We got Tegan joined. And we got the newest one here, Edward Cullen fan. From courtesy of Sats and Sunsets. So those are the new members on the channel. And again, if you do want to get a Bitcoin video, they're private videos. I don't share them anywhere else other than Bitcoin School. But you can join the YouTube here for a ridiculously, insanely low price every month. It probably should be 100 times more than it is. Truly. For the information, for the value, it's disgusting. But I want people to have this information because, again, the reason why I'm doing this whole thing is for average people. I don't give a shit if BlackRock's buying Bitcoin. I don't give a shit how much Michael Saylor has. I don't care about that. This is a very powerful tool, not only just a tool, but a weapon. And the more sats that are owned and controlled by people like us, the better the world's going to be in 20 years from now. Without a doubt. That's how things work. And the cool thing about Bitcoin is that once you have one of those sats or millions of those sats, and you send those to cold storage and you know how to protect the private keys to that, nobody can ever take those from you. Nobody can debase you. Nobody can print more Bitcoin and make yours worth less. It's very powerful. And so this whole thing is for average people. That's why I'm doing this. So if you do want a video every single day, you can either join as a member on the channel. You can join the school community if you want to actually talk with other Bitcoiners. YouTube's cheaper, but you only get the videos. If you want to be part of the community, you can join school.com/88 sats. And, or you can join the Patreon, which is also just videos. So I'm just going to share the link to our school page, just in case there's anybody out there who wants to join. I'll probably share it a couple times throughout the show today. But there it is. Again, video every single day. Sponsors. We have no sponsors, and therefore we have no filter. None of my videos. Say whatever we want. I think that's important. There's been a severe lack of trust in the crypto circles over the last decade. And a lot of good reason for that. There's a lot of shitheads in Bitcoin and crypto. A lot of people who might not have your best interest in mind. And a lot of people who, whether they realize it or not, are being controlled by their sponsors. So this project, this community, whatever you want to call this that we're doing, we have no sponsors. And therefore, we talk about the truth. We talk about the best, and it doesn't matter who's paying us to say it because there's nobody there. So if you do want to support at any time, you can send to that QR code, Arnie's or the Rescue Dog Fund, or you can join as a member on one of the communities, school, or you can join on the YouTube channel. And if you're watching this on your phone and can't scan that QR code, you can send it right there. And we will read the zaps. We read every zap here. So there we go. So the game plan today, we're going to go through the lesson. We've already gone through a lot of Q&A stuff. I don't know how much more we're going to do today. We're already 50 minutes into it. We're going to do our weekly smash buy, and we're going to give away some free Bitcoin, some free sats. And if you're watching this, I'm going to go through the security, my kind of security budget here in a couple minutes. And if you are somebody, I would say that if you have more than half a Bitcoin right now, if you're somebody out there who has more than half a Bitcoin and you don't really know what you're doing, you don't really know how to protect it yet. And you maybe watched a couple videos, maybe you got it set up properly, but you're kind of thinking about it every night before you go to sleep. I would strongly consider reaching out to Bitcoin Citadel, which I'm a part of, bitcoincitadel.net, and having one of the educators there. It could be me, it could be somebody else, depending on what you need. But have them go through it with you, or have me go through it with you. Just talk things out. This is what I have. You don't need to tell us the balances. You don't need to tell us anything. It's all fully private, fully non-KYC. But you can just say, this is what I have. This is where I'm holding it. This is where the keys are. And we'll kind of guide you and say this, maybe you could do this. Maybe you shouldn't have that passphrase with this. There's just so much to learn. And it's funny because there's a lot of free videos on YouTube that'll show you how to set up a cold card in half an hour, but they miss about 10,000 things, truly. And it's those 10,000 things that are pretty much the make or break whether you'll have your Bitcoin in a decade or not from now. It's very easy to set up a cold card. It couldn't be easier to set up a cold card queue. The problem is where do you store the private keys? Who do you leave it with? How do you tell your spouse without giving your whole balance away? How do you, where do you store this stuff? How do you think about your UTXOs in the future when you actually want to send this Bitcoin or spend it? So I would say if you have half a Bitcoin and you're kind of unsure of what you're doing, highly, highly suggest Bitcoin Citadel. We can help you through it. Make sure you know where the private keys are. Or if you want to get into a multisig, if you want to kind of take that next step, but you don't know what you're doing, bitcoincitadel.net. Okay. So that's the plan today. I want to get my drink here. Oh, you know what? The other thing too, the other thing I wanted to share here was I do this thing, and I don't know if there's anybody out there who does this, or there definitely wasn't when I started doing it. But I have this thing called value for value option. And it's basically, you don't have to make an upfront payment. You know, you look at some of the, I would consider them competitors, and you got to pay like $3,000 before you even get a phone call from anybody. They charge you $3 or $4 or $5,000 happily, and they tell you what you need to do. They don't really ask too many questions. And I'm saying this because I've heard this from other people who have come to myself or Bitcoin Citadel. And they're a couple $1,000s into it. They have no idea what they're doing or why they did it. And this thing that I have is called value for value. So you can book a call with me. You can book a call. You don't have to make an upfront payment. You can take the time that you need, and then you can send me whatever you think it was worth to you. What a concept. What a freaking concept. So I just shared it there in YouTube. And I'll have all these links too, by the way, in the pinned comments after the show. So we got the Calendly, we had the, what was the other one? School. All right. Let me make a little drink here. Let me mix a little drink. But yeah, we probably won't see like the full effects of just how unprepared people are right now for probably another decade. You know, there's estimates of how much Bitcoin is lost. It's funny because there's probably people watching the show right now or watching this clip after that think that they have Bitcoin. They're sending Bitcoin to their wallet every week, and they're watching the balance go up. And they don't even realize that they actually don't have the keys to that Bitcoin. I've seen that several years in the last, several times in the last couple of years, where people have sent tens of thousands of dollars or more to a wallet thinking that that's their wallet, but they actually don't even have the key to it. So we probably won't see like the full effects to all this. And you might be watching this and saying, yeah, Joe, I know what I'm doing. I've watched YouTube videos before. I know what I'm doing. But we won't see just how much is lost for like the next decade here. Because there's a lot of people with significant amounts of Bitcoin who just have no idea what they're doing. And so part of the lesson today is going to talk about that. All right. So let's get to her. This is episode, no, hold on. Let me take this off. Okay, I'm going to stop here before I get into this because I want to address this. What do you mean they don't have the keys? So it is possible, you know, when you set up a wallet, let's say that you have a Cold Card and a Sparrow wallet, or a Trezor and Trezor Suite, or a Ledger and Ledger Live, and you set it up. You got all the addresses there on your companion app, whether it's Sparrow or Ledger Live or Trezor Suite, and you see the addresses there. And you're sending Bitcoin there over and over again. Every week you're DCAing into that wallet. And then a time comes in the future where you actually want to spend some of that Bitcoin, and you realize that you don't actually have the private key. You've been using a different wallet or a different address, or you did something wrong when you set it up, and you've sent all this Bitcoin to this wallet that you actually don't have the key to. And I've seen this, and in the last month, somebody did this. They had, I don't want to say how much, but it was more than a Bitcoin. And they were sending it to this wallet every month or every week. They'd send Bitcoin to the wallet, and then they realized that they actually didn't have the key to that wallet. And again, if you have to ask that question, what do you mean they don't have the keys? And you have a lot of Bitcoin, you should be either signing up for the Bitcoin school, or you should be booking a call tomorrow. Because, I mean, I'm not saying that you don't have the key to it. I'd say 99.9% do. But there's a lot of people that won't. And they just won't have any idea why. Because they watched a 20-minute YouTube video about how to set it up and how to do everything. And they didn't realize that there's 10,000 other things that they have to know about if they're taking self-custody of their Bitcoin. Which ties into what we're talking about today. So with that, let's bring this up. This is lesson number 17, and it's titled Removing the Biggest Risk in Bitcoin. And what do you think that biggest risk is? It's you. You are the biggest risk in Bitcoin. If you're taking self-custody in Bitcoin, you are the biggest risk. And if you're watching the clip of this on Saturday or after that, I would encourage you to come back and watch the full live show, because we had some really good discussion leading up to this part in the show about how people lose access to their private keys, how a lot of people have been sending Bitcoin to a wallet without really knowing what they're doing and whether or not they actually have the private keys to that Bitcoin. Because that's kind of what I want to really highlight here is that if you don't have the private key to your Bitcoin, you don't have the Bitcoin. That's all it is. Like Bitcoin's nothing physical that you touch, right? It's not something that you can carry around. It's not something that you can put inside of a safe. What you're protecting is the private key. So when you have a device like a cold card and you generate a private key, that's what this does. It generates a private key offline. So it generates a private key, and that's where it's stored. It's stored inside of this device. So your private key never touches the internet. And that's why you use a companion app like Sparrow, where you export your public key, which shows you all of your balances, all of your UTXOs, all of your transaction history. But the private key itself is actually stored in this device. And when you set it up, it also gives you 12 or 24 words. And that's the recovery phrase for it. So if something were to happen to your private key, you'd take your 12 words, you'd get a new device, and you'd put those 12 words into the new device to essentially restore your private key. So that's what you're protecting here is your private key. That's what this episode is going to be about today, is thinking through this stuff and basically trying to remove a single point of failure in your security setup. So if you're watching this live right now and you have any questions throughout, just throw them in the chat. We'll get through all of them later. But that's what we're going to do. So I wanted to review lesson 15 here. This is actually lesson 17, but this is, I copied and pasted it. But this is lesson 15. And this is kind of like the part 1 that we did. So this is going to be part 2. And I just want to quickly go through this kind of as a review from last time, because there's a lot of really important information in here, including this. It's a journey. So just because you got a cold card and just because you set it up and watched a YouTube video on it, doesn't mean you're done, right? This requires very consistent maintenance. So it's a journey. And the more Bitcoin you have, you kind of go up to the next stage. And here's the stages right here. So it's always evolving. You're never going to be in a situation where you just buy Bitcoin, buy a device, send it there, and then never think about it again, because that's how you lose your Bitcoin. The other thing here too is that we have some really good Bitcoin exchanges out there. And I was told that Kraken actually shows proof of reserves now too, which I didn't know. But something like River, I'm going to update ShakePay here. But you can use River or Kraken to actually just hold the Bitcoin for you. If you're not comfortable storing and managing your private key, then it's probably just better to let somebody else do it for a while. And it's not your long-term solution, but until you get the correct knowledge of what you're doing, it's probably better with somebody else. Leave that risk with somebody else. Because as soon as you take self-custody of your Bitcoin, yes, it's a superpower. Yes, it provides more freedom than we've ever known as humans before. But great power comes great responsibility. So allocate accordingly. It's a journey. It's always evolving. And the two things that you need at all times are these two things right here. So I just mentioned that the private key, which is your device, whatever is storing your private key. It could be a phone. It could be a laptop if you have a mobile or a software wallet, or a device like this, the cold card queue. So that's what you want to make sure that you can access it. If you lost your PIN code, this device is toast. You don't lose your Bitcoin. That's why you have your recovery phrase. But if you lock yourself out of this device is bricked. So you want to make sure at all times you have access to both your private key and your recovery phrase, your 12 words or 24 words. So the way most people lose their Bitcoin is by losing their keys. And so kind of what I suggested here is that you kind of you take self-custody based on your knowledge. So right here, if you're somebody out there watching this and you have like a 5 out of 100 knowledge, you should probably only take 5% of your Bitcoin into self-custody. Leave the other 95% with River, Kraken, or another good exchange. Only take self-custody based on your knowledge. I think that's a very important part. And then, of course, as your knowledge and confidence grows, you can allocate accordingly. You go from 5% knowledge to 10% knowledge. And you got to be very honest with yourself here. Because again, I mentioned this last show, but every time somebody books a call with me, I ask a question, what's your knowledge out of 10? And a lot of people, they'll say 5, 6, 7, because they don't want to sound dumb, right? They've watched a couple videos. They kind of understand what's happening here. But you got to be very honest with yourself. And I would say that even me, after being in Bitcoin for 6 years so far, I'm probably like a 60 or 70% myself. So if you've never held Bitcoin, if you've never set up a multisig, if you don't know what you're doing here, you're probably closer to like a 1 or 2 max. So you got to be honest with yourself. And you have to take this seriously. It's okay to leave it with somebody else. Let somebody else take the responsibility. You can take out as you need to. And as your knowledge and confidence grows, you can take more off the exchanges and into your own self-custody. Okay. So the point, what I wanted to ask everybody here, and this won't be as relevant for the people watching this later, but this is just kind of for my own market research, I guess, because I'm going to kind of base the next couple of videos on the responses that we get here. Right? Because if everybody's kind of in if everybody watching this is still on an exchange, then I got to do more work here. But if everybody watching this is, has a cold card or a Trezor, then we can probably skip this stuff, right? And so I want you to put a number in the chat of where are you right now, and use 1 through 6. So if you're somebody who just has the Bitcoin exposure, you have all your Bitcoin on an exchange right now, that's fine. But just put a 1. If you're somebody who's using an Aqua wallet or a Bull Bitcoin wallet on your phone, and that's where your Bitcoin is, put number 2. If you have a device that you're using, a cold card, Passport, Trezor, Jade, put 3. And if you have a passphrase on there, put 4. And I doubt that there's too many people watching this that have their Bitcoin in a multisig or encrypted backups. But if that's you, put a 5 or a 6. So I'm going to go through the chat after the lesson here and see what the responses are. And again, I'm going to base the next couple episodes here on the responses that we get. So the next question here is, where should you be right now? And so my threshold for this kind of stuff, and I put here, use the 90-day average, because, Bitcoin today, it's at $60,000. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what it's worth. In fact, I would argue that Bitcoin is worth well over $2 million today, and that's kind of how you should be thinking about it. But I know not everybody's kind of in that state of mind. So let me find the 90-day moving average here. 90-day moving average. Where is that for the price? Okay, so what is it today? 200-day moving average today is still $100,000. So this is a great resource here. It's called wickedsmartbitcoin.com. And you can see here that the 200-day moving average of Bitcoin is 100,000. 200-day moving average. So even though we're in the dumps right now, you can see the price is 66,000. You can see the 200-day moving average is 100,000. So it's a pretty clean number, actually, that we're going to use. So 100,000. Sorry, Noster. So if you had 2 million sats right now, this is kind of what you do. So you take the value of it and you times it by 5%. I think that this is what everybody should have as kind of their security budget. So if you got $2,000 worth of Bitcoin, that'd be about 2 million sats right now, I believe, 2 million sats. You should spend about $100 on security. And I would argue that you probably shouldn't spend that on anything. You should probably just buy more Bitcoin. Buy 100,000 sats worth of Bitcoin. But if you're protecting 10,000, what's that? What happened there? That's not right. Oh, I times it by that. B70. So you should, if you got $10,000 worth of Bitcoin today, I think you should allocate at least $500 to securing that Bitcoin. And there's a lot of different ways you could do it. Like one example would be you order a cold card queue. That's going to be about $200. And you maybe set up a call with somebody to help you do it for another $200. So that's $400. And again, you got $10,000 of Bitcoin, you order a cold card, you watch a YouTube video, great. You know how to set it up. You know how to connect it to Sparrow. But again, that video probably didn't teach you where you should be keeping the recovery phrase, if you should have a passphrase, where you should keep the passphrase. Should you separate your 12 words? Should you use 12 words or 24 words? Should you roll the dice? All these different things. And it all depends on, it's person by person. So if I'm having a call with somebody, my answer to this might be completely different than the next person, because everybody has different threat models. People live in different parts of the world. Some people might be very susceptible to like a tornado. Some people might live on the ocean and they have, hurricane season. Those are different conversations than somebody who lives in the prairies. So you gotta consider that. And then if you got $100,000 worth of Bitcoin, you should be allocating 5,000 to your setup. And you're probably going to want it in a multisig. You want to have different devices in different locations to remove that single point of failure from where you are. And you want to make sure that it's very difficult for you to access and almost impossible for anybody else to access. So with $5,000, I mean, you could probably get into a multisig for that. Actually, the Bitcoin School course, the end goal by the end of 2026 is I want everybody in there to be set up in a multisig. So, you pay 9 months worth of Bitcoin School fees. That's about $200. Or you can pay somebody $3,000 to help you set up a multisig and do it too quick and miss things and don't know what's going on. So, when we're talking about Bitcoin here, going back to the very beginning, it's a journey. It's not something that you can just watch one video and you're going to be set. It's a very long journey and you have to take it very seriously. So that's kind of my threshold that I use is take the 90-day, or I guess there's a 200-day one there. 200-day moving average, look at the price, and then based on your the value of your Bitcoin, take 5% of that and allocate it to your security. Because I say this every day, but it doesn't matter how much Bitcoin you have today. You might look at your wallet right now and see you have X amount of Bitcoin or sats. Doesn't matter. If you don't know how to protect the private keys to that Bitcoin, that might as well show 0. Because at some point, maybe not today or tomorrow or next week or even next year, that Bitcoin's going to be taken from you or you're going to lose it. So these are the days, man. These are the days. These are the days before everyone else gets here. You got to build your foundation. And again, thinking about yourself as a first generation Bitcoiner, it's on you. It's on you. You're going to either make or break your family's future with your decisions over these next couple of years. Truly. And the crazy thing is there's a lot of people watching this who just really have no idea what I'm talking about here. And they got tens of thousands of dollars worth of Bitcoin and it's going to be gone. It's going to be gone, taken from them, or they're going to lose it. And their family's going to say, what the hell? You were here in 2026. You were watching Bitcoin videos in 2026 and you have nothing? Like Mr. Clean with that video we watched earlier today. His grandkids are going to be pissed at him because he had a closed mind. He thought he knew everything. And he didn't take this time in history seriously. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I'm actually going to walk through. I'm going to do a scenario here. So a real life scenario. Again, I can't believe I'm putting this information out there for free. Truly, this is if you can kind of nail this down, you're going to be good. So I'm going to walk through a scenario here. I'm going to assume that most people watching this either have a software wallet, something like Sparrow, a mobile wallet, something like Aqua, or a hardware device. One of these three. And what I talk about today is going to be applicable to all three of these. Because when you set up a new wallet, whether it is a software wallet, a mobile wallet, or a hardware device, the first thing that you do is you generate your seed phrase. That's the first thing you do. So if you're using a software wallet or a mobile wallet, that seed phrase is generated from the device. So if you're using Sparrow on your laptop, you can actually create a software wallet. You don't need a cold card. You can just create a software wallet, and Sparrow is the one that generates and stores the keys. Your laptop does that. That's the device. If you have a mobile wallet, like an Aqua wallet or a Bull Bitcoin wallet, your phone generates the private or the seed phrase, and it stores it. If you have a hardware device, your cold card does that. So if you're using a hardware device, that's kind of the point of it, is that the keys are both generated and stored offline. So this is the safest thing you can use. It adds another layer of security there. Obviously, you don't want if you're holding a significant balance of Bitcoin, you don't want your keys generated online or with your phone. You don't want them stored online, connected to the internet all day. That's a disaster. But again, I know that there's people at different stages here, so I kind of want to talk to everybody with the lesson today. So you generate the seed phrase. You write down your recovery phrase. So this is going to be the case for all three of these scenarios: software, mobile, hardware. And so you now have a device. This could be a laptop, a phone, or a cold card to protect. And you want to make sure you put a good PIN code on there, because that's the keys to your Bitcoin. If somebody gets access to your cold card that's storing your private key, they now have your Bitcoin. So you now have a device, and the same with your phone. And I really think that this is going to be a big problem in the future when Bitcoin kind of goes more mainstream, is that everybody's going to be carrying around tens of thousands of dollars in their pocket with their phone, Bitcoin. And so people used to get mugged for like $20 on the street. Now imagine people are carrying around all this wealth on their phone because they have their phone connected to their Bitcoin. So you really have to pay attention to the device that's actually storing your private key. So you now have a device, and you also have the recovery phrase, 12 words to protect. And that's harder to protect, right? Because again, I mentioned there, a laptop, a phone, a cold card, those usually require pins or passwords to get into it. If you have 12 words that you wrote down when you set up your wallet, somebody finds those 12 words. If someone finds those 12 words, they are now a co-owner. I like thinking about it that way. They're now a co-owner of your Bitcoin. And you're only going to be a co-owner for about half an hour, or as long as it takes them to restore those 12 words into a device and move that Bitcoin into their possession and out of yours. So if somebody finds those 12 words that you wrote down when you first got your wallet, if anybody finds those, they're written in plain text. That's all they need. If they find those 12 words, they have your Bitcoin. Or I should say they're a co-owner of your Bitcoin until they move it out of there. And the other part of this too is that if you are storing both the device and phrase in the same location, that's a massive risk. That's the risk. That's what this show is about today. Removing the biggest risk in Bitcoin. And that's what it is. Removing the biggest risk is a single point of failure. Single point of failure. And there's actually a guy, I don't know him personally, but one of my good friends in Bitcoin, they had a client or a friend who lost, again, it was a decent amount. He'd been stacking Bitcoin for a very long time. And he had his cold card and he had his 12 words. I ripped this up because this backup card from CoinKite is a joke. But he had his 12 words and his device both at his house. And what happened to his house? Fire. Lost all of his Bitcoin. Lost every single Satoshi. And again, the reason why you have to take this seriously is not because of what Bitcoin's future is going to be. I mean, that's part of it. But also, the Bitcoin that you have right now is a representation of how much work you've done, of how much value that you've added to the world. That's what Bitcoin represents. You're storing it in Bitcoin. And so if something happens to that, imagine if you're somebody who has your cold card and your 12 words both in your house, and something happens to your house, fire, flood, hurricane, tornado, your Bitcoin's gone. And you're never, ever going to come close to that balance that you have today. Because again, it represents all your past work. And as humans become less valuable, as the price of Bitcoin inevitably goes up, it's going to be harder and harder to get more sats. And so, again, it doesn't really matter how much Bitcoin you have today. You have to take it seriously because it represents your life's work. That's what Bitcoin is. It's not an investment. It's not a speculation. It's a representation of the work that you've done. And so you take all that work and that's what you convert into Bitcoin. So now in the future, you're going to have to work the same amount, if not more, probably way more, to get that same amount that you have today. And that's why when I say this, how much you should invest in your security, this 5% might even be low when you consider that. Because again, here's the thing. Let's say that you have half a Bitcoin and you agree with me that Bitcoin today, even though they tell us the price is 66,000, I think it's worth closer to 2 million, 10 million, 20 million. Because if gold and Bitcoin were equally valued, if you looked at gold and Bitcoin and said these two assets are the same, identical, then Bitcoin today would be almost $2 million per coin. But it's not, because nobody understands Bitcoin. The market isn't valuing Bitcoin correctly because nobody understands it. So then you say, okay, you got half a Bitcoin. You say Bitcoin's probably worth $2 million today. Then you got $1 million worth of Bitcoin to protect. So all of a sudden that number turns to $50,000. You should be taking this a little bit more seriously than you are today. 50,000 is probably a little bit excessive, but you understand what I'm saying here. I think 5% should be the absolute min, and I'd say this 200-day moving average should also be the absolute minimum. So you get rid of the single point of failure here. So what I'm going to talk through exactly what you should be doing here. And again, this is we're going to look back on this and say, holy man, this info here, truly invaluable. This was watching this video back in 2026. This was the difference between our family having Bitcoin and not in 2035. Okay, so again, this is what you're protecting. So you got the device, the private key, we'll call it. The private key, and you got your phrase, your 12 words. This is what you're protecting. You want to make sure that you have both these things at all times and it's connected properly to the addresses that you're sending your Bitcoin. So that's the first thing I'd say is, like, before we go any further here, probably a good exercise that everybody can do here is try to send Bitcoin. Try to send a Bitcoin transaction. And if you can just send like $20 or $50. You actually don't even have to go through the process of broadcasting the transaction, but try to send Bitcoin. See if you have the keys to it. See if you have the key to it. Again, I've seen people recently where they sent Bitcoin for months, years to this address or 2 addresses or 3. And then they realized at one point that they actually don't have the private key to that Bitcoin because they did something wrong when they were setting it up. So this is a good thing that you can do today is go into your wallet, your device, your laptop, your phone, or your cold card, and just try sending a Bitcoin transaction. If you can sign it and get to the point of broadcasting it, then you do in fact have the key to that Bitcoin. Help you sleep better tonight. I would suggest everybody does that. Because if you don't have the private key to your Bitcoin, or I should say, if you don't have the private key to the associated wallets that you've been sending Bitcoin to, that's a better way to put it. If you don't have the private key to the associated Bitcoin wallets that you've been sending Bitcoin to, you don't own that Bitcoin. Straight up. So you got to think this stuff through. Where are you storing the device? Where are you storing the 12 words? And I'll tell you a little bit of a story here because this is something that I learned, thankfully not the hard way, but it could have been disastrous for me. So when I first got into Bitcoin, right, I was thinking through this stuff. I was like, okay, I need to eliminate my single point of failure here. I have this Bitcoin, I have the device, I have my 12 words, but if something happened to my house, it would take out my device and my words. Even though I had it on a steel plate, I still didn't really trust the steel plate. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take these 12 words, my recovery phrase, and I'm going to leave it with my brother or my parents or wherever. Just in case something happens to my house, then I don't need to, I can still recover my Bitcoin. But the problem with that is that these 12 words, they're being stored somewhere else. That's another vulnerability in your setup. Because somebody could have broken into my brother's house and found my 12 words and restored it into a wallet and moved it out of that wallet. And then completely out of my control, without even my knowledge of knowing this happened, my Bitcoin's gone. So this is something that you really need to pay attention to, probably more than your device. Again, because this device is encrypted. It requires a PIN code to access. This is plain text. If somebody finds your 12 words, they have your Bitcoin. They don't have to do anything. They don't need a PIN code. They just take those 12 words, they put it into a new device, and they move your Bitcoin out of that wallet. So this is really what you need to pay attention to here. And probably in a coming episode here, I'm going to talk about a passphrase and how it kind of mitigates this in a way. But today we're going to keep it pretty simple. So that's what you want to be storing here. And so what I would say is two things. You kind of got two options here. If you are somebody who has less than, let's say, $10,000 worth of Bitcoin, just keep your 12 words. Keep your 12. Actually, we'll separate this into two scenarios here because I think there's probably both watching this. More than $10,000. That's kind of where I want to go with this. So we'll do the first one first. So if you are in group one, you have your device. And again, this is going to assume that most people here don't have a hardware device. If you have less than $10,000 worth of Bitcoin, so you're using this on your laptop or your phone. So you can keep this at home. Keep it home. You should actually keep both these, device and phrase. 12 words, keep it home. Because 10,000 might even be high. Let's say 5,000. I'm going to say 5,000. 10,000 is too high. Too much risk there. So I'm going to say if you have more than $5,000, you're in or less than $5,000, you're in group one here. So you're probably good. And you might even want to invest in like a $50 steel plate to put your phrase on. Again, this is not safe. It's just not. Like realistically, it's not safe. Because there's a lot of things that can go wrong here. Number one, if you have your device and your phrase at your house and your house starts on fire, your Bitcoin's gone. Somebody breaks in your house, they find your 12 words in plain text, your Bitcoin's gone. So this is not a safe setup. This is what most people have. I'd guess if you took a survey of everybody who has Bitcoin in self-custody, this is probably at least 80% of people. And it's a recipe for disaster. But because I shouldn't say only, I hate using only, but if you have less than $5,000 worth of Bitcoin, you're probably okay. Once you get past that, then you want to pay attention to group two here. So let me just put this. This is not safe. This is not a safe setup. But it's what you have right now. And I would argue that if you have $5,000 of Bitcoin, you might even just want to keep that on an exchange. Or, you can practice with it. You might get a device, and that's what I'm going to suggest here, is you have a device, and you actually have a hardware device. And then obviously you still want to have your passphrase or your, not passphrase, sorry, your 12 words. And so what I'm actually going to suggest for this group two here, if you are somebody with more than $5,000 worth of Bitcoin, is get yourself a hardware device. Cold card and passport are my two top options. Maybe even a Trezor. Trezor is not great, but it's a good start. So cold card, passport. I'm going to put a link to cold card as well in the pinned comments if you're watching this later. I'll maybe find it in a second here. But you want to invest. You want to invest in a hardware device with this. So the cool thing about this is, again, we go back to this device itself is encrypted. So that's why I'm going to make the suggestion here. Your hardware device is encrypted. So what I'm actually going to suggest here is keep offsite. Keep this somewhere else. You don't need your hardware device. You don't need your cold card to receive Bitcoin to it. You only need your hardware device to send Bitcoin. So most people here, I'm guessing, are in the accumulation phase of Bitcoin, which means that you're not going to be sending your Bitcoin every day. You're just going to be sending Bitcoin to your wallet. And you don't need your hardware device to receive Bitcoin. All you need is your companion app that has all your Bitcoin addresses in that, right? And so what I'm suggesting here is you actually keep your hardware device somewhere else. That could be at your friend's house, your girlfriend's house, your office, safety security box. You keep it away from your house. And then your phrase here, and I'll put this up there as well, but keep it home. Very well hidden. Because again, we're talking about this. We're saying that the phrase itself is in plain text. It's a huge vulnerability for Bitcoiners. If you have your 12 words and it's in your safe, somebody gets access to your safe, they now have your Bitcoin. They might not even have known you had Bitcoin until you put your 12 words in your safe. So you keep this at home, but you keep it very well hidden. And again, this is the kind of information that you get through Bitcoin School, through a one-on-one call with me, through the Maple Bitcoin course that we're coming up with, which is basically like a in-deep dive with Rajat and Forrest, talking about this kind of stuff. This is the stuff that they don't tell you in a YouTube video, that you shouldn't keep your 12 words in your safe, or that you should keep your hardware device away from your house. Because again, the reason I say this, because if somebody got access to your safety security box, they still need your PIN code. This is encrypted, right? So you want to keep I would keep both these actually very well hidden. Not in your safe, contrary to popular belief. So both these, device and your phrase. So that's the setup. That's what I would use. And of course, the next step here is add a passphrase. And that's going to really mitigate both these scenarios. So just to kind of review there, if you have less than $5,000 worth of Bitcoin and you're keeping it on a phone or on a laptop, on a wallet, I would suggest just leaving it as is. Hide your device, hide your phrase. You know, you don't want to be walking around town with $5,000 worth of Bitcoin on your phone. I know it's nice to look at it whenever you want to and say, hey, you know, I'm rich. But you want to put that on a separate device that you're not carrying around everywhere. And you want to keep that at home in a very well hidden place. And your 12 words associated with that wallet or that device, that private key, you also keep those at home, because you don't want to leave these in different spots. As much as that kills me to say that you don't have any backup for these, every place that you leave your 12 words is a vulnerability. And if somebody finds that, you might not even know about it, and they now have your Bitcoin. And I guarantee that there's people watching this right now or later that have their 12 words and they've left that somewhere else. And they're going to say, holy shit, I didn't think about that. I'm going to go get those 12 words and I'm going to change my setup here. Because I did it. I was in Bitcoin for 3 years and I made that mistake. Thankfully, I didn't lose my Bitcoin, but I could have very easily. And then if you're in group 2, if you have more than $5,000 worth of Bitcoin here, I would suggest investing in a hardware device, learn how to use it, set up a call with me or go through the Bitcoin school or have somebody else help you with it. Make sure you're not missing anything there, but keep that offsite. Once it's all set up and good, keep it offsite, because then if something happens to your house, you still have one of your private keys here because it's kept offsite. And the reason why it's okay to leave it offsite is because it's encrypted. It has a PIN code. So if somebody finds it, they can actually go into your cold card and they could try, I think it's up to 13 different pins. And once they guess 13 different pins and they're all wrong, this device will actually brick itself. It'll be unusable to anybody. So that's why I'm comfortable, and that's why I suggest that people leave their hardware device somewhere else. Because again, it's all about removing this single point of failure, keeping your device and your private key or your recovery phrase in the same location. That's a recipe for disaster, not safe. So again, if this is what you got, I don't expect you to invest a bunch of money into your setup, but I do. If you have more than $5,000, you should be taking this a little bit more seriously. So this is not safe. It's safe for what you got right now. This is way better. And then if you add a passphrase to that, you actually keep the passphrase in a third location. So then you're very, very protected. And I don't usually check on the chat here, but I think this is a very relevant question right now. From Folsom Hoddle says, I have a question. Is there a point you should replace your hardware wallet? Mine is 7 years old now. I would do it today because the flash memory on these devices only lasts about 10 years. And so imagine that. Imagine you had your cold card, you're using it every day, and all of a sudden one day you wake up and it just won't turn on. And it's just dead. And then you're like, oh shit, where did I leave my 12 words that I set up 10 years ago? And you don't know where those 12 words are. And then you don't have your device, and you don't have your 12 words, and you don't have your Bitcoin. So I would say that if you've had it for 7 years, I know that's probably not going to be a lot of people watching this, but just kind of keep that in mind that these devices are pretty much only good for about 10 years. And then their flash memory stops working. Good question there, Folsom Hoddle. Great name too. All right, so that's the lesson today. I don't even know how long that was. It felt long, but it felt really quick, I should say. It probably was long, but felt very quick. Okay, so I actually wanted to, I got a promo running here for February. A custom security plan. And if you're watching this and you're like, oh man, there's a couple things that I don't know, that I didn't think through, and I want to sleep better at night. And so I'm going to set up a call with Jor. So what I'm doing for February is that if you book a call, half an hour at least, I'm going to do a custom security plan with you. And you can share, again, you don't have to share your balances with me. In fact, I don't want to know how much Bitcoin you have. But if you are over this threshold, if you're in group 2, if you got more than $5,000 worth of Bitcoin, we'll set up a custom security plan for you. We'll see where it is right now, and we'll see how we can improve it. Essentially to make your security setup much more robust and bulletproof, regardless of where you are today. So the promo here is going to be for at least a half an hour call, and you're going to get a full membership to Bitcoin School included with that. So if you want to do that, you can either number one, you can email me and say, I want to set up a call. I want to take advantage of the February promotion. I want a custom security plan. Or you can join school for an annual membership. And then I'll send you an email and say, here's a link. You can book a call with me. Or you can book using Calendly. You book a half an hour call at least, and then I'll send you a lifetime link to the school community here. So that's the promotion for February. And right now, when the price is low, when there's not a whole lot of people buying devices, and there's just not a whole lot of like craze around it, now is the time to be looking after this stuff. Because when Bitcoin goes from 60 to 120 to 1.2 million, which it inevitably will, assuming Bitcoin, assuming nothing crazy happens, you want to take advantage of this time here. This is when you want to be thinking about this kind of stuff, so that when that day comes, you're not shitting your pants and saying, oh my God, I don't know where my device is. I don't know where my recovery phrase is. My family doesn't know where it is. So in this custom security plan, we'll figure out where you are, where you should be, and we'll also kind of make a starting plan towards inheritance stuff. And I'll kind of share some of my solutions that I have and some resources that I use for thinking through this stuff. So that's kind of your 3 options there. Is number 1, shoot me an email and just put like custom security plan, and I'll send you the details for it. You can join the school, an annual membership premium I should put on there. Annual premium membership. And then I'll send you an email and say, here's a link to school. So this is kind of like the perfect way to do it, because you're going to get firsthand information from me, like a private one-on-one call. It's going to be customized for your situation, but that's kind of just the first step. And that's why I like combining these two things, the security plan plus the school, because again, it's a journey. And when you're watching a different video every day talking about this kind of stuff, it's going to stimulate your mind and start thinking a little bit differently, things you might not have ever thought about before. So it's kind of like the 1-2 punch here. You got the one-on-one call with me, and then you have the access to school, which is a Bitcoin video every day in 2026 talking about different topics. And then the third one is you could book using Calendly. And you book there, and then I'll send you a lifetime membership to school. So that's the promotion that I'm working on for February. So you got 3 ways to approach it there. And I'm going to share the link to both the school here. And again, all these links will be in the pinned comments below. So there's the school. This is the kind of videos that I do every single day. MHMA says, excellent video. Thank you, my friend. And this is literally the conversations that I have every day. Each video is about 15, 20 minutes long. So it's not too long. It's not that much of your day. But it just kind of keeps this stuff top of mind. And if you only knew what you're actually securing and protecting here, I think that you'd be taking this stuff a little bit more seriously. So here's the Bitcoin link here, half hour. We'll do the half hourly. So one of these 2 things you could do, and it's going to give you the one-on-one call with me and then a free lifetime membership to our school community where you get a video every day. That's my offer to you. And of course, there's also a free course. If you are somebody who's not really ready for this, if you have, if you're in group 1 and you got about $1,000 or $2,000 worth of Bitcoin, you're just kind of getting your feet wet here. I do have a free 11-day Bitcoin journey course for everybody. So I'll share the link to that as well. Where is that now? It's on Patreon. So it's 11 days. It talks about buying, sending, receiving, managing your private keys, best practices for security, all this in a short 11-day course, and it's completely free. So I do things like this, the 88 lessons that I'm happy to share with everybody here in the 11-day Bitcoin journey course. But, this information is very valuable. And if you are taking this stuff seriously, it's probably worth paying for. Again, go back to that, the budget there, your security budget. Take a look, take an honest look and say, do I have more Bitcoin than I know what I'm doing with here? Do I need a second look at things? So here's the course, 11-day course. And the funny thing is that Bitcoin school that I'm talking about, the Bitcoin video every day, we started that on January 1st, actually December 31st of 2025. We've done 47 videos now every day in 2026. And the school doesn't actually start officially until March 15th. So anybody who's been in there actually just gets a bunch of bonus content leading up to it. But it officially starts on March 15th. And before I go, I want to show some of these because these are important. These are, live testimonials in the chat here. Mika says, George the bomb. He has helped us secure our sats with confidence. Highly recommend. And Ginger says, been a part of George's journey since 2024. One of the best things I've ever done for myself. And it is an investment, but it's not like a crazy expensive investment. Like I said, you go to some of these other Bitcoin consultants and educators, and you got to pay thousands of dollars to just get your foot in the door. And I don't feel like it's that thorough of a review, and it's not very that custom to what you need. Right? These bigger companies, they have kind of this blueprint of what they give everybody and tell everybody to do, but everybody's in a unique situation. So that's why I like the idea of a customized plan, very low ticket, very low risk, low cost. And then you also supplement that with daily Bitcoin videos, just to kind of round out your knowledge and stimulate your mind in terms of what you should be thinking about with Bitcoin security. So that's what I got for you today, my friends. That's been lesson 17. Thanks for being here. I'm going to get through some comments now. And just as a reminder, these live streams are every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. I do a Bitcoin video every morning, a Bitcoin live stream for about an hour, hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, off of this platform on Rumble and on Nostr. And then I do a replay of this specific clip, just the lesson. I do that on Saturdays. So that's kind of the schedule. So that's what I got for you today. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you learned anything, if you got any sort of value and you want to give some back here, you can send some to the Rescue Dog Fund right here. Or you can join one of the communities and not only support, but also, make an investment in yourself. Or if you're watching this on your phone, you can send it to jor@rizful.com. That's my Lightning address. And so, of course, the Bitcoin School community has all this stuff about private key management and security and UTXOs and how you should be thinking about that. But there's also things like setting up a Lightning wallet, customizing your Lightning address, how to use Nostr, how to set up a Nostr account. All these different things are part of school because there's a much bigger thing happening here than just your net worth going up. So that's what I got for you today. If you're watching this on Saturday, I hope you're having a great Saturday. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. And for everybody else, thanks for being here. And, okay, what do we got here, Josh? Josh says, fuck, I'll make myself an example of what not to do. I currently have 3 hardware wallets, 2 set up, the 3rd not. Both have 12-word seeds on steel at least, but in my possession along with my wallets. So my laziness will cost me if I don't take it more seriously, like George says. And there's a guy who watches the show every single day. And again, I'm not perfect here. I'm not perfect. The point of these lessons, the point of the streams and the videos that I do are to get you thinking. And you can take action if you want to. You can see here my favorite quote here, action cures fear. Because when you take action, you're less fearful. There's less anxiety. If you know that you've done things properly there, you don't worry about things. Then you can spend your finite time and energy, being in a good mood, being carefree, stress-free. So Josh, yes, man, you got to get that sorted out ASAP. ASAP as possible, as Michael Scott would say. Wow, good crew over in Nostr today. We got 15 people over there. And how are we doing on Rumble today? Looks like we got a couple new subscribers over there. Nice. How are we doing on Rumble today? We got 30 people. We got 17 thumbs up. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. We're going to get through some questions in YouTube here right away. And I don't know how much longer we'll have. We had a long show today. But if there's any questions that people have, just throw them in the chat about anything. Security, Bitcoin, anything but predictions. Because if anybody's telling you they know where Bitcoin's going to go, they're full of shit, self-included. Okay. So what did I miss here during that? That was a good one. That had my head spinning. Need some water. Diego's here. Good morning, Diego. VHF says analysts are calling for more downside during this bear market. VHF. Josh says liberal tactics at work keep me delayed. I fix the problems though, eh? And we got a picture here from Josh. What's this going to be? Hopefully it works because, oh, there it is. Barely. Yes. We got a video from Josh, our favorite kind of media here. Okay, let me take this down because I won't have any sound attached to it. Okay, let's see what Josh has to say today.
Sorry, guys, late this morning here. Back to the show because of this here liberal tower's too high. I got to throw this extension on my crane to get the fucking thing up there, eh? That's how you get her done there. Right there. Scope that all the way up there. 180 feet.
Oh, 180 feet. The guy's doing that, and he's worrying about his Bitcoin security. How could you not? How could you possibly not love that? Okay, MDRX says true. Narrative sentiments are bad right now, but there are also a lot of analysts calling for 150 in 2025. They could be wrong again. 100%. Live Good with Sabian says every once in a while I send my whole stack with one particular wallet. Every once in a while I send my whole stack within one particular wallet to a new address within the wallet, which consolidates into one UTXO. That's good practice. That's good practice. Okay, David T with a zap here. We got a couple zaps. High Viz Sats. Matt FRL. Zapped Tesla Zap 369. Thank you, Matt. High Viz Sats. Matt FRL, the man himself. Small Batch Steve said 19.99 million. That 20 million feels like a real milestone. For real. For real. And if you actually look at the total amount, because it's not 21 million Bitcoin exactly, right? It's 2 quadrillion, 99 trillion. Shit, I haven't said this number for a while now. We said this a lot at the start of these lessons. 2 quadrillion, 99 trillion, 999 billion, 979. I don't know what it is now. 979 million. I forget what it is. Damn it. I had that memorized for a while. But I think we're probably 1 million. What I'm trying to say here is I think we're probably 1 million Bitcoin away already, because there's not exactly 21 million. Where's that number? It was in one of the earlier lessons here. There it is. 2 quadrillion, 99 trillion, 999 billion, 997 million, 690,000 sats. So a little bit less than, it would be, we're still more than 1 million Bitcoin away. A little bit less than 21 million actually. But that's the magic number. And I thought I had it memorized. I was close, I think. But I was a little bit off. Okay, Carson says, would love a lesson on Lightning wallets. Should I do one in 88 lessons? Lightning is an important part here, right? Because nobody's going to be sending on-chain transactions to pay for things in the future. Everything's going to be on eCash or Lightning or Liquid or something else. But it's a pretty handy skill to have, Lightning wallets. I use Lightning wallets every single day. And so does David T. David T's up 420 and said, didn't realize hardware wallets go bad after time. Good tip. See, and that's one of the things I'm talking about, right? Is like people have this idea of their understanding of Bitcoin, but they don't know what they don't know. And that's why I do these different videos every day, because you find different topics and you might hear the same thing 10 times, but then you might hear one thing that I say that actually makes a big difference in your setup. And so that's why I call these kind of like mind stimulant videos, because it's not just me talking about the technical aspects of Bitcoin for, 20 minutes a day. It's to get you thinking about things. And when you're thinking, you're preparing. Love the dice roll function on the cold card queue. Super cool. And that's one of the things too, is like people don't even really understand how their private key is generated. Where does it come from? Where is it stored? Is it, there's a bird right there. What? Not in the house. Almost like he's scoping out a place for a nest this spring. Good luck. Good luck with that. MHMA says, what if you wipe cold wallet then restore it with your 12 words? Well, I mean, what I would rather do here is if you have a significant balance that you're storing on your current device, I would get a second device and restore it in that first. Don't wipe it before you know that you can restore it. That's another really good way to lose your Bitcoin. So if you have your 12 words, don't wipe it. You need to make sure your 12 words that you have written down actually work. So you get a second device and then restore it into that. And I mean, the thing about getting a second device too is that you'll probably use it at some point, right? Like going down the list of mobile wallet, hardware wallet with passphrase, multisig. If you have an extra device right now, you're probably going to use that device in the future for a multisig when the time comes. Okay, so Hamza said 3 going to 4. All right, cool. 3 going to 4. Nice. Gringo Poppy says 5 to 6. Nice. Chuck says 3. Sats and Sunsets 3. MHMA 4. And this was the quiz not quiz, but survey, I guess you'd call it. Mark 4. Nice. Solar 5. Love that. 3. Josh. Yeah, Josh, you want to look after that ASAP as possible. MDRX 5. Wow. All right. It's impressive. Impressive. And we got one more over here, which was from David T, who is also a 5. Wow. I'm guessing people who didn't put in the chat are probably like a 1 or 2 and just don't want to say that, because that seems like a pretty high sample. Nav says, what are these numbers? So for today's lesson, I asked the question at the start of it. I said, what are you in? Where are you right now? So I guess if you're watching this right now, throw these in the chat too. But are you a 1? Is your Bitcoin on an exchange? Are you a 2? Is it in on your phone? Are you 3, like a cold card, Passport, Trezor? Are you a cold card with a passphrase? 4. 5 is a multisig, and 6 is encrypted, geographically dispersed backups. There you go, Mika. Same thing here. I know where you are too. We just helped. I won't say too much. Mika can say it if she wants to. Okay, Justin says 4. Praetorian says 3. Buck52 says, I'll never tell. I mean, what you could do, Buck52, is you could just say you're number 6, and then nobody's going to try to mess with you. You know, that's why I feel so comfortable talking about Bitcoin on YouTube, is because if somebody came to my house and tried to steal my Bitcoin, they'd have to fly me to a couple different locations to get it. So I think at some point that'll be kind of the norm for anybody who's watching this in 2026 and buying Bitcoin in 2026. It's going to be impossible for anybody to steal your Bitcoin. It's going to take some time. We're going to go through a lot of shit before that. But like, Bitcoin's so cool because you can actually geographically disperse your keys so nobody can rob you. You can't even rob yourself. Mika says, I'm a 4, right? You can say it if you want to. Mika, I don't actually remember if we set up a passphrase for it or not. I don't think we did. So Mika, you might have to go back and pay attention to, where is that? Where was that? Right here. This is how you should be doing it without if you're in group 3, if you're number 3, that means you're group 2. Clear as mud. If you're 3, you're 2. So then your next step will to be add a passphrase, and that's what we're going to be talking about in a future lesson here. Passphrases. Because passphrase creates a whole nother layer on top of what you got already, which is already good security. All right. We got a couple zaps from Scotty Boy. Scotty says, what are the numbers? Scotty's number 9. Nice. So he's ultra secure. Scotty, should we do our weekly smash buy here? I think we should. Scotty's still awake. We're keeping him up here. So it is the 17th. Wow. Lesson 17 on the 17th day. My favorite number. I think we have to buy $17 worth, regardless of what the price says. So here we go. This is our weekly smash average. This is where we buy Bitcoin every single day, regardless of what the price is. This is called buying at every price. And we do it kind of intelligently most days, unless there's some numerology involved. But you can see here when the price is up, we buy X amount. When the price is even from yesterday, we buy another X amount. And when it's down, we buy more, because then you're getting more sats for the same amount of dollars. And I just looked at my balance here and it showed 0, and I almost shit my pants, but I realized that I sent it to cold storage yesterday. All righty, so I'm going to buy $17 worth of Bitcoin here. What am I going to get? Wow. $18,273 sats. 17 units of the shittiest, worst, most illusionary currency humans have ever used. I traded 17 units of that for 18,273 units of the hardest, scarcest, most precious, energy-backed, best currency humankind has ever seen. That's a pretty damn good trade. And the point of doing this every day, and we do this every day on the show, we do a live stream every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time. If you don't know where that is, you can figure it out. You got to put a little bit of work in, maybe. It's kind of an underground society, bespoke community. We do a live stream talking about Bitcoin every day, and every day we buy Bitcoin. But it does not matter how much you buy. Some people buy 50 cents worth every day. Some people buy $5 worth. Some people buy $50 worth every day. It does not matter how much you're buying. The only thing that matters is that you're buying. Because when you consider this, 17 units of the worst money that humans have ever used, you can trade 17 of those units for 18,273 units of the hardest money that humans have ever seen. That's a pretty good trade. Whether this is $1, 17, 1,700, it does not matter. It's still the deal of a lifetime. Because again, this is the thesis here. One day, one sat will have the purchasing power of $1. Not a matter of if, but when. And so just imagine that. You just traded 17. I just traded $17 today for $18,000 in the future. And that's not the max either. This will go to higher. This will be worth more than $18,000 one day. Just how Bitcoin is designed. Unlimited human potential meets absolute scarcity equals no ceiling. I like that one. Unlimited human. Oh, I might trademark that. Unlimited human potential plus absolute scarcity equals no ceiling. So when I say that this is going to be, these sats are going to be worth $18,000 of purchasing power one day, that's not the top. There's no ceiling here. Unlimited human potential plus absolute scarcity equals no ceiling. There's no limit on what these sats are going to be worth. There's just not. And I posted about this today on Nostr. I said, it's funny when people say Bitcoin can never get to $50 million per coin because the world assets are only 900 trillion and the math doesn't add up. But they're thinking in fiat. They're thinking in a system that is totally manipulated and controlled. That's not reality. That's not a free market. We have no limits as humans. The only limit that we have as humans is our imagination. That's the only limit. So there we got a couple buys there. Mark got $25 worth for 26,000 sats. Wow. Praetorian spent 47 units of fake and got 69,000 units of real. Scotty Boy traded 10,000 units of fake for 100,000 units of Larry Lepards. And what's going on in Nostr today? Anybody buying over there? Sin Diesel is. And David T. Sin Diesel got 25,000 FUs. Shout out to Scotty for 17 cuck bucks. And David T just got 30,000 units of real for 21 units of bullshit. And David T also is up 420. Thank you, David T. Appreciate it very much. And a couple big shout outs today. The biggest shout out of the day goes to Jen. I don't know if she's still here or not, but Jen with the biggest zap so far today. And a couple other big ones to report. We had Joshua with his very consistent and very appreciated zap, Josh Zap. Make sure I didn't miss any more here. 420, 420. Maria and Praetorian. Those are the big supporters of the day today. And I appreciate it because these are long shows. These are long shows. And imagine this information being free on YouTube. I like it though, because I think everybody should have access to this information. But again, if you do want to support, you can send to Rescue Dog Fund, Jared Risful, or you can join the school community. That's a good way to support and also learn a lot of stuff about Bitcoin. Okay, last thing we're going to do here today. We're going to give away some Bitcoin. I thought I heard Arnie stirring back there. And, you know, we'll go a little bit longer today because, or should we? I don't know. Should we? Let's try to get through all the comments. But we're going to give away some Bitcoin. So I want to tell you a couple different things here. I think most people watching the show would be in Canada or the US for the most part. I know there's people in different parts of the world, and I'm going to have a video coming out for them. But for the most part, you got a couple different options here in Canada and the US. You got River in the US. We've been talking about how much I love River and their proof of reserves. The fact that they actually, when you send the money, they actually buy Bitcoin with it. What a concept. So they have 100% reserves, and they prove it every month. So you got River. That's kind of for, I would say, some people who are somewhat new to Bitcoin. Use River, and you can just keep your Bitcoin on there until you're comfortable storing your keys, which is what we talked about today. Or if you're a little bit more advanced, I would use something like Bitcoin Well. Bitcoin Well, you just send the money, and they send you Bitcoin. If you already have your wallet set up, your security set up, there's no risk of anybody rugging you along the way here. And that's why I like Bitcoin Well. They got a couple of really cool features, including the ability to pay bills. You can set up a recurring buy, so you can just automate your buys automatically directly to your Lightning wallet. So then you can much better manage your UTXOs as well. And you can also swap from on-chain to Lightning for free using Bitcoin Well. So I would say if you're in the US, I would recommend those two exchanges, River, Bitcoin Well, possibly Strike. I know a lot of people use Strike, but they don't show proof of reserve, so I'm not a huge fan of that. And if you're in Canada, I would say Bitcoin Well, Bull Bitcoin, and probably ShakePay. And I would, even if you have one of these that you're using already, I would suggest setting up 2 and 3 because you want to make sure that when the price is going down or it's screaming up, you can actually move your Bitcoin or buy Bitcoin if you need to. And a lot of exchanges, we saw it last time when it crashed down. It was a couple weeks ago now, but Strike was down for maintenance. And so imagine that. Imagine you're sitting there and you're watching the price go from 90 to 80 to 70 to 60, and you're just licking your chops. And you're getting ready to buy a big amount that you've had aside for a while now. And you log into your exchange and it's down for maintenance. And you have to wait for it to come back. Probably the price has gone back up too. So you want to make sure you got a couple different options there. You never want to just rely on one exchange. That's a disaster. Because it could be the flip side too. It could have been running up and you wanted to sell some sats. Maybe your family's going on a holiday this year and you wanted to cash out at the top, but your exchange is down. So that's what I would say. I'm going to share all these links here, but I want to bring up Bitcoin Well while I'm sharing these links. And again, if you got a Lightning wallet, you open it up, you press send, and the first person to scan this QR code here is going to win some sats. So here we go. Good luck. Quickest one wins. There's the toss into the well. 210 sats. I'm not going to say it again this week. I kind of screwed myself last week. We burned like 8 tosses, I think, last week. Okay, so I got Bitcoin Well here. I'll see if somebody claims that. There's Bitcoin Well. You get, I think, 5 free tosses into the well. So you get free sats if you use my link there. And you get up to $100 worth of free Bitcoin if you're using River. So there's River right there. Unfortunately, it's only available for people in the US. But there it is. Okay. So I'm going to take this down. We're going to do another toss here. And these sats are courtesy of Bitcoin Well. So they're the ones giving us these tosses to give away to the community here. So those are my top 2 exchanges, Bitcoin Well and River. Another 210 sats. Let's see who can who's claiming it. Who's going to get it? Well, maybe do one more. He going to do one more. We're going to do one more toss into the well. Congrats. And last toss here. Again, these sats courtesy of Bitcoin Well. So with Bitcoin Well, again, they're a non-custodial exchange, which means they don't hold your Bitcoin. You can pay bills. That's a really good strategy for anybody who's trying to live on Bitcoin, is you can just pay your bills with Bitcoin Well. You don't have to go through the banks anymore. You pay for things with your credit card, and then you use Bitcoin Well to pay off your credit card balance with Bitcoin. So one more toss here. One more toss. One more toss. 210, really? Okay, we're going to do one more. So I like that Bitcoin Well, they put the odds on here now to see what you can win, because you can win up to 1 million sats. But I've seen a lot of 210s recently, and that was kind of like the lowest option they have. But I mean, that's the thing, is as these sats become more valuable and more scarce, they have to reduce the rewards. So I get it, but we'll do one more, because I like you guys and girls. So 19 and 20, this is, where we're probably going to fall here. We got the chance to win up to 2,100 sats. So let's hit a 2,100 or 21,000. Maybe even a milli. 210 again. Damn it. I mean, it's still 210. I would never complain about getting 210 sats, but one day we'll hit a biggie. So if you get an account at Bitcoin Well and you use that link that I shared there, and you just buy like $100 worth of Bitcoin, you get 5 tosses into the well. So that's what you get there. And the other thing too about Bitcoin Well is they actually have a white glove service. So if you are somebody out there who wants to make like a significant allocation to Bitcoin, oh, nobody's claiming this. Okay, I'll take it. Did I get it? I thought I had it. It's not working for me. Must be stuck. Did anybody get that one? I even know how to get out of there. Oh, well. Sucks to suck, I guess. Oh, somebody got it. There we go. So yes, Bitcoin Well, if you are somebody who's looking to make a big allocation in Bitcoin Well, shoot me an email. Like, let's say you want to buy 50, 70, 100K or more worth of Bitcoin, and you kind of want somebody to go through the whole process with you. I'll team up with Bitcoin Well, and we'll look after the security. They'll look after the Bitcoin purchase, and you get a much lower rate through their white glove service for bigger buys. So if you are somebody who is looking to make a significant allocation to Bitcoin, you want to make sure that everything's done properly. You have people walking you through it and helping you through it. And when you send it to your wallet, you want to make sure that those keys are stored somewhere safe. Reach out to me. Just shoot me an email and say, I want help buying a big amount of Bitcoin. And I'll kind of walk you through the whole thing, and we'll partner up with Bitcoin Well and get it done. So that's it. Oh, we got a couple people from watching overseas. Hey, John. Thanks, Jora. Thanks, John. Count von Borg from Norway. Wow. Metal detector in the UK. Okay. Tom says he's a 4. Nice, Tom. That's a good spot to be. 4. One of our Bitcoin journeymen on the channel. YouTube member. Mika says, some random guy just called asking if we want to meet with him to give us advice about how to invest our money. I wanted to say how much, but I held back. Cold callers, eh? I didn't know about Passphrase. Interesting. Is that specific to cold cards that are available with all other wallets? It depends. Not all wallets have it, but cold cards do. Yeah, I think I mentioned it to you, Mika, but you kind of just got to go in steps. So Passphrase will probably be the next iteration for your setup there, Mika. But we'll cross that bridge when it comes. Can you recommend a cold card for my 1 BT? Wow. Big swinging dick here. Recommend a cold wall. Yeah, absolutely. Cold card. I'd say cold card, passport. Those are the best 2 devices. Nothing really comes close in my eyes. I mean, even a Trezor would be an upgrade from a Ledger. But cold card for sure. Actually, if you got that much Bitcoin, you probably want to have a multi-sig with a couple different devices. Maybe you have a cold card. Maybe you use your Ledger in there. Maybe you use a Trezor as well. And you have 3 different keys to it. I'd say you need a multi-sig at least. If you got more than half a Bitcoin and you don't have a multi-sig, that should be kind of the next thing you're thinking about. Look at that. 7 out of 6. Dead man switch sends a blackmail out. Love that. Okay, I think that's it today. Oh, sorry, Praetorian, missed you. How difficult is it to turn a 20-word seed on Trezor into a multi-sig? Not very difficult at all. You just need 2 different devices. So you could use your Trezor. You'd get a cold card, maybe a passport or another device. And then you just move your Bitcoin from your Trezor to the new multi-sig. Wouldn't be difficult. I mean, it's probably not something you want to do on your own, but you could. Solar says, can I do anything useful with 2 Trezor ones, like a geo dispersion? I moved to cold card and just have them. Yeah, I mean, you could set up a multi-sig with 2 Trezors in your cold card and then just put 10% of your stack in it or something. I like having different, diversifying my wallets in that way. And then you just kind of get a feel for it too. And then maybe one day you move into a full multi-sig and move the majority of your Bitcoin over to that. MDR says, thanks, George. Thanks for being here today. And thanks to Mika and to Ginger for nice live testimonials there. Appreciate that. Okay, seed phrase is more important than the sign device. I do agree with that because it's in plain text. That's right. This is why it's important to take your seed phrase back up seriously. It is your Bitcoin. Exactly. That's what most people miss. That's what most people miss. They don't realize how important their private key is. All right. Thank you, Praetorian. Hey, Camille's here. Brief hello from St. Croix Island in the Caribbean. Brief hello back to you, Camille. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for joining quickly. Okay, so I'll cover that one more time here because I know there's people kind of coming in and out of here. But I do have a February promotion running here. And I don't know if I've ever really done a promotion before, but I just figure this is kind of like the perfect time to be thinking about this kind of stuff. So the custom security plan, that's the promo for you. So what this involves is a one-on-one call with me. We look at what you have right now, not the amount, but like where things are. We make a plan to move into, how to make your security more robust, help you sleep better at night, make sure whatever Bitcoin you have today, your family has in 20 years from now, 50 years. And you also get a free lifetime membership to our Bitcoin school, which has a Bitcoin video every single day. Technical stuff, private key stuff, UTXO management stuff, Lightning wallets, eCash, Nostr, video every day, mostly meant to stimulate your mind, get you thinking about things every single day. Because that's what you need here in Bitcoin. You need an active mind. This isn't something you do and then forget about. Come back in 20 years and get your Bitcoin. This is an active role and you should treat it as such. So the promo here is if you book a call at least half hour with me, one-on-one, you get a free lifetime membership to Bitcoin School. So there it is right there. You got a couple options. You can either email 88 Sats, just put custom plan in the subject line, and I'll send you the details that you need. You can join the school, the annual premium membership, which is about $210, I believe. And then I'll send you a link to book a call with me for free. Or the third option is you could book using Calendly, and you book a half-hour call, and then you get a free lifetime membership with your purchase. You can pay on Calendly too. So you got 3 different options there, and I'll be happy to help you with either of those. So that's the custom security plan that's going to be running for all February. And it kind of gives you the best of both. You get the holding your hand through it, and then also the follow-ups, the daily reminders, the mind stimulants along the way. So that's it. That's what I got for you today. We'll save that. We'll be back here next week for lesson 18. And we only got 70 more of these. How the hell is that going to work? We'll get it done. So much stuff. It's a never-ending rabbit hole here in Bitcoin. So good crew over in Nostr today. Thanks everybody for the support. Big shout out to Jen again for another MOB today. We don't usually do MOBs on Tuesdays, but we did today because that was a very big one. So thank you, Jen. Thanks everybody. And we'll be back here next week on Tuesday. And if you want to, consider coming to our daily stream every morning. Every morning. Where is it? There it is right there. I said you got to do a little bit of work to figure out our daily, our society, our secret community there, but there it is on the screen. So consider coming. Consider stopping by. We talk about this stuff every day, and it keeps your brain nice and fresh. Dean, good to see you, buddy. Chorsky. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed it today. Hope you learned a lot, and we'll see you right back here next week. Bye-bye.